I want to talk a little bit about the Sancho situation because a lot has come out today about Jadon Sancho, and just some snippets here from the article. I implore people to go and read the full article because there's things in here that defend him as well, which we will talk about. But they essentially state that we know that Sancho has deleted his tweet now, which I think, for me, I think that's a good sign for everything. But it says here that Ten Hag set Sancho early roll calls in a bid to get him to turn up on time, but issues persisted and training levels prompted the deselection for Arsenal. It says last season, Ten Hag and his coaching staff tried to get Sancho to arrive on time by setting him a schedule at least 1 hour earlier than the rest of the squad. The tactics had some initial success, but Sancho fell back into familiar patterns. And it also says that Ten Hag has become increasingly exasperated with Sancho's punctuality and what he perceived as sluggishness in training. This has also not gone unnoticed by his teammates, some of whom share the manager's sense of frustration. What I will add to this, though, is that it also talks in there about how, and I think this is very, very important around the Sancho situation, that there is a belief that there hasn't been enough, they call it, I think it's pronounced pastoral, as in like help for Sancho in terms of he is a little bit, the article says there's maybe a feeling at Man United that he was more mature than he really is because he'd been away in Germany for some years. And actually, he probably hasn't had as much support and he's almost been allowed to go off and do things which have led to lateness, tiredness, sluggishness in training. And it also speaks, and there's a part of the article that speaks to one of his ex-England youth coaches who says that he does feel that people like Sancho, because of how he dresses and the clothes he wears and sort of the way he carries himself, there is almost an unconscious bias which makes people less likely to forgive him for latenesses and a perceived lack of effort, which I think is key. But the tweet's been deleted now of him defending himself. It's been made very clear, I think, by Man United that this is about turning up to training on time, training standards being high enough, and the club really just trying to get the best out of this talent. How do you see this one playing out now that it's kind of a week further down the line? We kind of know more what's happened. Sancho seems to have backed down from his initial stance. What's your feeling about it now, mate?
Well, he's back down in terms of deleting the tweet. I wouldn't say he's back down. It's just he's deleted the tweet. The club have obviously told him delete it. Yeah, and so he's probably looking at a fine if he don't delete it. So I don't know. It's weird because like a lot of these, and I've said this before, our two football clubs are so riddled with PR. How do we know that's true? He's late. Oh, he's late. Oh, he's late. Oh, he give him a schedule an hour before, and he slipped back in. And so you're telling me, right? Here's the schedule. You're coming in an hour before everybody, yeah, and then you're not turning up. Literally not turning up, and you're turning up after everybody who's supposed to come an hour later. Is that that's what you just read out, right? He got a schedule an hour before everyone. So here's your schedule at 8 a.m. Jadon. Everyone else is coming in at 9. Make that make sense in the first place. Because if the guy's already got an issue with turning up late, why would you make him come in an hour earlier? Because he ain't coming in, is he?
So what the club's has tried to do, when you read through the article, and we know this through other things that have been said before, there was issues with his fitness, there was issues with his conditioning when they first arrived at the football club. This was well documented last year. This is in a bid, an attempt. You've got to join in with everybody else. We want to put you through extra training to get you back to your levels, to get the very best out of you. And as it says, there was initial success. And, last season when we spoke about the games he was starting in the second half of the campaign, and all this took place, by the way, after that 3 months hiatus, got back into the team, started scoring some goals. And Man United fans in those first few games afterwards were like, ooh, we're getting more of the Dortmund Sancho. And then that faded away again. And that very much matches with what we're being told here. And my view is this. The reason why I believe that element to be true, that I do believe there is a training issue with Sancho, is generally speaking, when it comes to sport, highly talented people who don't fulfill that potential, it's either one of two things. It's either work ethic or injury problems that curtails them. The fact is, he is supremely talented and more in terms of technical ability. He's better than Bruno, he's better than Rashford, in my personal opinion. And the fact that he can't deliver for the team, even on an individual basis, say the system's rubbish and the tactics are crap, cool. But if he can't deliver on the same level as players who most people would consider to be inferior to him on an ability level, I can only put it down to fitness and training standards personally. other than anything. He's had enough opportunities. He started enough games. I do believe that element there is true. And I think what the club is trying to now get out of him is just trying to get, one last push. Let's try and do this publicly.
Get him out there, see if he actually raises his game. It'd be
that's where I come
from.
from.
If he starts at the weekend, wouldn't it? Because obviously Anthony's suspended. So it'd be interesting to see if he starts. I know you're looking at El Ghazi. Good luck.
No, we're not. That's not true. In fairness,
so you don't believe that one, Terry?
Let me answer again. Don't read headlines. When you read the actual, even the original story that came out, I think from the Telegraph, when you read the article, not the headline, it was the agent of El Ghazi has offered the services to Manchester United. And then it said, who are considering their options now that Sancho and Thingy could be out of the team. Nowhere in the article did it say that Man United wanted him.
No. I'm just saying that, because it's banter. Yeah, but they're considering their options. So it's not, we've offered him to Man United, they've said no. So there is a chance.
No. The way the sentence was worded was very clever. It was very, very clever. He's been offered this player in the process of Man United considering what they want to do about that side of the pitch. So not they're considering El Ghazi, but they're considering their options. Now they've got two right-sided attackers out. And in that meantime, he's been offered.
Out of this one.
Because it's not about wriggling out. Because Laurie Whitwell, Laurie Whitwell and Simon Stone came out the next day saying this is just like it's not a twisting of words.
Do we actually believe what them two say? I don't know. It's
one of those things. But what's been stated is that it was basically misinterpreted by the way it was written. Man United have made no inquiry and have zero interest in signing the player. Again, it was a headline that got everybody clucking.
If you signed him, I can't lie.
Oh, bro, if we'd have signed him, I'd have been fuming. But we didn't even inquire. It's a bit like this. It's a bit like this. Imagine a girl that you don't find attractive, that you don't like, you think she's horrible, asks you out on a date, and then everybody starts spreading the rumor because you're thinking of dating someone. Lee's thinking of getting back into the dating market because he's been single for a while. A girl asks you out that you don't like, and I say, Lee's going out on a date with so-and-so, or thinking about it. That'd be a lie, wouldn't it? You'd be like, no, I'm not. I'm just thinking of dating in general. She asked me, and I told her no. But I hear what you're saying. But it's the Sancho. Yeah, I think to me, listen, I think Sancho. I still want it to work for him
this weekend, though.
I think
if he starts, he has to do it. Who are you playing, Brighton? If he starts, he has to do it, doesn't he?
Do you know what? Does he start, Sancho? Look, this is my take on it, right? I'm someone that believes in redemption. So I think whether a team can have a bad performance and get battered, and sometimes I think you go, wow, I'm going to pick some of you again. Go out and prove. Like, again, I'm going to be consistent. When he picked the same team for the Real Betis game after we got battered by Liverpool, there was a part of me that thought, no, you've got to make changes. And there's another part of me, well, actually, you're telling these players, go out there and show you can win again. Try and get that confidence back. So I'm using the same logic here for Sancho because I'm not a hypocrite. He hasn't started in the last few games. He was dropped for the Arsenal match. He's put this tweet out. There's been a public war of words. I believe that men can be men, though. And him and the manager can sit down. I like this. I didn't like that. Both can have their say. They can shake hands. And this is what, again, in my opinion, real men do. You shake hand. Once you shake hands, you bury it. It's done. I don't want either of them to be cowards and carry on having an issue behind the scenes. Because I think this can happen in this industry. You shake hands, go, boom. Right, Sancho, you said you got the message. You said you're going to work hard. You've done well in training the last 2 or 3 days. You're starting. Go out there and prove me wrong for talking about you in public. You can have that relationship and then go and do it. I would love him to start, and I would love him to deliver, and I would love him to turn his Manchester United career around. As much as I've criticized Sancho many times for his poor performances, I have no personal agenda in any capacity against him. I just want players to deliver for my club. What I won't do is I've seen a little bit of this for Sancho in the last week. People kind of defending him, saying, you don't know the real Sancho and what he's really like, and there's this issue and that issue, and this didn't work, and this system and this tactic and this player. And I'm like, that just sounds too Maguire for me. Just put your hands up. And what Sancho probably needs is people close to him to say, listen, Jayden, you've been shocking. And if this is true,
but they don't hang around with, nobody hangs around with people like that. We just said that about Maguire.
I get you, brother.
They live in a bubble, Terry.
I agree. What Sancho needs is people that he loves and respects echoing that message. One of the biggest things that helped, and I don't think he's had a great career, but when Shaw was barely playing for United, weight issues and everything else, he was criticized publicly. by his parents who backed someone that said that your lifestyle's wrong. His parents backed the story publicly and said, we've got issues about it as well. I'm not saying he's been amazing since then, but he's been more consistent. Ironically, he's out injured now. His injury problems have subsided slightly in that time, and he's probably had his best couple of years as a Man United player. I still think it's come too late because I think he abused his body and didn't try hard enough long. And that's my point before. I have no personal issue with Sancho. I've criticized sure in the past for these same issues. Look, I've said about Fellaini and Maguire and McTominay's and McFred as a general thing. I just want players to deliver for my club. I believe there's training issues. And the reason I believe that, I said it earlier, when you're that supremely talented, it can only ever be long-term injury issues like Paul Pogba or a lack of effort in training or application in what you do that stops you from delivering. If less talented people can perform in the team, there's no excuse for the more talented individuals. There just can't be. It's why I was always angrier with Pogba dropping stinkers than I ever was with McTominay, because you can't compare them on ability. So, of course, I'm angrier with the better footballer than I am the lesser footballer. It makes no sense. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like an Arsenal fan. I get if Holding made a mistake for you, why is he playing? He's not good enough. But I'd be less annoyed with him than I would be if Saliba or Gabriel did it, because they're better. They shouldn't be making those mistakes like a lesser player. So look, I hope Sancho comes back. I hope he plays this weekend. I hope he delivers here. Oh, Michael has this, Terry, liar Terry, where's your redemption for Greenwood? Again, if you think that comparing somebody being late to training is any way, shape, or form comparable to in my belief, what we heard Greenwood say.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there. That was 15, 20 seconds or 40 seconds of a 5-minute voice recording. Right. It's 5 minutes. It's already come out. So we don't get any context. It's like when you clip me up. Lee Gunner exposed. You don't put the 10 minutes before and the 10 minutes after. It's just that little 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no context in a 40-second voice clip. Yeah, when it's a 5-minute voice clip. If you hear the whole 5 minutes, we might all have a different opinion. But we haven't heard the 5 minutes. We only heard 40 seconds.
Again, I understand where you're coming from, but I read what I read. I saw what I saw. And I don't think the situation of Jadon Sancho being late to training is comparable to the allegations that Mason Greenwood faced. And until I'm showed that 5 minutes, my mind is not going to change. Until I'm showed evidence that he did not do what I believe he did, my mind cannot change because I heard it. So I think the two scenarios are completely different. I don't even think they're comparable situations.
They're not comparable situations, but in a sense, they kind of, like, at the end of the day, people are outraged at that Greenwood situation, but the one person who's not outraged is engaged to him and had his kid, and that was the alleged victim. So, like, what's it matter what any of us think?
Well, listen, and that's their life, and I understand that completely. But for me, I'm very happy for Greenwood to have a redemption. If my mind is changed about what he did, and you only change that by giving me more information.
I'll ask you a question as well. Go on. Sorry, finish your sentence.
Equally, if Sancho doesn't train hard, doesn't listen to the manager's instructions, I don't want him to start. So if he doesn't do something that changes my mind, and I don't need him to prove it to me personally. I'm not that arrogant. I will trust my manager. If he picks him, he's been doing the right thing. That's where the redemption arc comes in. You have to either change people's minds or behave differently for you to get a redemption. You can't act a particular way, not change, and then expect a redemption, Michael. That is the fundamental thing you're missing here, my friend. But go on, mate. Go on. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, he's obviously Greenwood's on loan now, yeah? But I think Man United have got a clause in the contract that can bring him back in January. Yeah. Do you think if this Anthony story goes a similar way, do you think that they will go, well, we ain't bringing him back? Whereas if the Anthony story gets thrown out and it's all fabricated and it's not what it's seen to be, do you think they will bring him back in January? Do you think it hinges on the Anthony story?
No. I think my personal thought is the loan. I don't think he'll ever play for Man United again. I think why we haven't just cancelled his contract and why we're loaning him out and why everything else is because if he goes to Gafite and has a really good season, then the club will be able to sell him as an asset. Somebody will buy him for 50, 60 million pounds. Where if we just cancel his contract, somebody's going to pick up a 60, 70 million pound asset for nothing. That's what the Glazers are doing.
Well, I thought you'd actually cancelled his contract because the way it was worded, was he's leaving the football club. He's no longer part of Man United. And then all of a sudden, he's now on loan. They spun that so perfectly.
No, they did. Again, the Glazers do not want to let a 60, 70 million pound plus asset leave the football club. And it was worded in that way. And as I said at the time, so that's what I think they're doing.